Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Literary Apothecary, and today we're going to talk about Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. Now, I started reading this book as a buddy readathon at the Literary Discourse. I'll put that link below in the description. This was with the Codex Cantina and Christy Lewis Dostoyevsky in space, the History Bookshelf, and the Musical Bookworm. And it was a lot of fun, but I finished about a month after everyone, but that gave me a chance to go back and ask questions after people have already read it. So it's actually quite fun. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars, and so I loved the drama in the book and I loved the characters. For me, reading the prose was a little difficult because there were some parts and even some chapters that felt like they were totally sidetracked from the whole plot of the book. And they also felt like they could be an entire book on themselves. So that was a little difficult to get through, and some of the Russian prose was very dense and a slug to get through. But once I switched over to the audiobook, it flew by, and it was so much fun to listen to. It was like watching a Russian soap opera. So if you're looking to get into the Brothers Karamazov and you're hesitant because of that Russian prose and the thickness of it, because it's like some 1,000 pages or something, I highly recommend finding a good audiobook for it, because that will make all the difference. It truly made a difference for me. So I'm just going to get right into talking about the spoilers, because that's all I could say about Brothers Karamazov without talking about spoilers. So in the spoilers, at the very end, throughout the book, we're trying to solve this mystery of who killed the Brothers Karamazov father. And there's all these characters and the brothers and everything admitting their guilt, but also admitting their innocence. And so we have no idea who did it until the very end. We find out that Smerdyakov, who was like the butler type of adopted son into this family, was the actual killer. But then Ivan, one of the brothers, also has partial guilt for it, because Smerdyakov admitted to Ivan that he was the killer, and Ivan knew this all along and didn't say anything. So it took me a couple rereads and a couple of re-listens to figure out who the actual killer was. I read the last part. The book was split into books, which are essentially parts, and then chapters within the parts. So it took me a couple of rereads of the last couple chapters at least to figure out what really happened in the end and who the real killer was. But once I figured that out, I was like, oh yeah, that's who I thought it was all along. They kept saying it couldn't be him because he had this seizure right when it was supposed to happen, but he was the one that knew everything and was the linchpin in everything. So I thought it was Smerdyakov all along. I never doubted it, but it's because of the density of the prose, it took me a couple of reads to figure out that he actually was the real killer. So in order to really capture Dostoyevsky's prose and writing style, I wrote down a bunch of quotes that stood out to me as I was reading it. So I'm just going to read these and then we'll wrap up the review. Aspired to be the rank of a sponge. There was something about his eyes that was reminiscent of a lobster, and those two quotes kind of give you the impression there was this humor in the Brothers Karamazov that I wasn't expecting in Russian literature that really gave it a breath of fresh air to me. The one who lies to himself and believes his own lies comes to a point where he can distinguish no truth within himself or around him, and thus enters into a state of disrespect toward himself and others. The world rests upon preposterous things, and indeed it's possible that without them absolutely nothing would ever have come into existence. Indeed, precious memories may be retained even from the very worst of families, if only your soul is capable of seeking that which is precious. And so those quotes were the ones that stood out to me the most reading Brothers Karamazov. I really enjoyed this read-along. I enjoyed this book, especially, like I said, especially the audiobook. It was really fantastic. It was really fun to read through. And I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And if you're looking for something dense, something really, really detailed and really different from what you're reading, I highly recommend Brothers Karamazov. It's one of those great classics that you have to read at least once to appreciate the Russian literature that often goes underappreciated, especially in our culture. Dostoyevsky has just a way of writing characters that makes you feel for every single one of them, but also makes you question every single one of them, which was why Brothers Karamazov was such a fun read, because even though I had a feeling it was Smirnikov this whole time, you still doubted your own thoughts about who it was and what really happened. So, Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoyevsky, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend for a different read. Highly recommend the audiobook because that makes it even more fun. If you've read Brothers Karamazov, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. As always, my Patreon and Discord information will be in the description below. Keep reading, and I love y'all to the moon and back. Bye.